Good evening. My name is Carrie Moore. This is for Thomas University, Professor Battle, and it is from my Juvenile Delinquency crj250-olb class. Today is March 30th, 2012. My topic is going to be on juvenile offenders and mental health. Mental illness is defined as any of various conditions characterized by impairment of an individual's normal cognitive, emotional, or behavioral functioning and caused by social, psychological, biochemical, genetic, or other factors such as infection or head trauma. Some fun facts are approximately 50 to 60% of youth in custody have a mental health disorder. And it's not so fun, but they are facts. Only 15 to 20% of youth not incarcerated are known to have a mental health disorder. Females and teens with a history of being in the child welfare system are more likely to have mental health problems than those without this history. And a majority of diagnosed youths in the juvenile system have a co-occurring substance abuse disorder. 15 to 20% of youths in the juvenile justice facilities can be classified as seriously emotionally disturbed. This is having multiple mental disorders beginning in childhood. The juvenile breakdown for the United States, as of 2010, there were over 70,000 juveniles incarcerated. The males accounted for 61,000, females accounted for 9,000. With these statistics, 50 to 60% with a mental disorder equals over 35,000 juveniles incarcerated that have mental health disorders. Some of the most common illnesses that are seen in juveniles are depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. With nearly 60% of female juvenile offenders had symptoms that were diagnosed as anxiety disorder, and 32% of the boys had symptoms that diagnosed them with this. With depression, there was 30.4%, according to a study by Olson and Hamilton in 1998, 30.4% of the juvenile offenders met the criteria for depression. And the breakdown of those was 21% was girls and 9% was boys. And it did go up to 13% for boys. Anxiety was broke down to 21.3% boys and 30.8% for girls that met the criteria, according to Teplin and colleagues in 2002. Post-traumatic stress disorder. In a large U.S. study of incarcerated youths, 90% of incarcerated juveniles endorsed being exposed to at least one traumatic event, but only 12% of those juveniles met the diagnostic criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder was also high on the list. Between 20 and 30% of juveniles that were incarcerated met the criteria to have this. And 46 to 83% of those juveniles that were studied upon met the criteria for a comorbidity, which means they had two or more disorders. Now, children with unaddressed mental health needs sometimes enter a juvenile justice system that is ill-equipped to assist them, and it costs. Now, mental health cost overall, the United States, the cost is $150 billion per year for treatment, social services, disability payments, lost productivity, and premature mortality. And the average cost for juveniles with mental health issues per year in 2003 was $38,000 a year. There are different treatment plans that are available to juveniles with mental health disorders. These treatment plans can include individual counseling, team or group counseling, a medication regimen, and individualized treatment plans. Each juvenile, if they are immediately screened by mental health professionals once they enter the system, they're more likely to have their problems identified and treated. And with this, they can have individualized treatment plans, whether it does include a medication regimen and or counseling. If juveniles aren't on a treatment plan and don't get the medication or counseling that they need, there are high statistics for the likelihood of suicide. Juveniles are 4 times more likely to commit suicide when they're incarcerated than they are when they're in the civilian world. And it's rated that 19% of all juveniles incarcerated are suicidal. There is no uniform treatment approach that works for all youths, and therefore the treatment and intervention should be designed for each individual youth. The future for juveniles with mental health problems is bleak if they don't get the mental health services that they need while they're incarcerated, because if they don't get them while they're incarcerated, they're not going to get them when they get back out on the streets. The National Center for Mental Health and Juvenile Justice revealed that, of course, all youths that got the immediate mental health screenings, they are more likely to have their problems identified and treated, and this will help within the recidivism rate. It can reduce recidivism up to 25%. That is concluding my study on mental health within the juvenile society, within juveniles that are incarcerated. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.